Welcome to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Guys, I want to do something that I hope will be helpful to both the conservative movement, Trump campaign, to Republicans in general, DeSantis campaign, even all of the Republicans. We need to be real about the so-called black vote. I have this contention, all right? We need to stop chasing black votes, and we need to start going after black voters. And there's a big difference. There's this idea or this mantra. We're seeing memes. We're seeing, especially after Trump's been arrested, that Trump can get 24% of the black vote if he's the nominee in 2024. Guys, that's not going to happen. And I'm going to tell you why that's not going to happen and why it's really dangerous for us to keep pretending as though it is. We'll have that and more on this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Again, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. That is Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Please subscribe at YouTube and Rumble, Rumble being the free speech platform, because we are seeing a little bit of censorship as we lead up to the election, but we expect that to happen. That's why we've got to build a parallel economy. There are people out there that are talented that are doing so. Rumble is one of those free speech platforms. So if you want to watch the video, I suggest that Rumble is one of the places that you subscribe. I know a lot of people like YouTube. We want our numbers to grow on YouTube, but you can be sure that we won't be censored on Rumble. So check us out on Rumble as well. All other places where you go to get your podcast, please subscribe. Join us also on social media at The Carl Jackson Show, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Truth Social, you name it. Today's show is brought to you by MyPillow.com. Mike Lindell is offering deep discounts on all MyPillow products and 50% off of the Giza Dream Sheets. You'll love them. They're soft, they're smooth and cool. You'll absolutely love them. 50% off right now. All you have to do is go to the Radio Podcast Square, click on the promo code that says click on the Radio Podcast Square, enter my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, or give them a call, 800-858-0263, 800-858-0263. American jobs Mike Lindell is providing, American products, good night's rest, MyPillow.com. Help that guy out and get yourself a good night's rest and some great gifts for other people, frankly. All right, so so lately, especially after Trump was arrested in Fulton County, initially, you had a lot of people that were lining the streets, and we'll play some video for you. But you had black residents lining the street. As a matter of fact, we'll just roll that video for you real quick just to remind you so that you get a look. You can see the normal, average everyday blacks just free Trump, free Trump, free Trump. That was big. That went viral on that day. So let's just roll that real quick, Gabe, and we'll check that out.
Y'all see it, man. Which one is in, though? Donald Trump. Talking about they got everybody. Look at that.
These were average everyday blacks. They were in parts of Atlanta. These weren't the organized blacks for Trump. It wasn't that. These were average citizens in the Atlanta area. And people were seeing whenever something like this, when this happened, when that arrest happened with Trump, you saw memes popping up everywhere. A lot of the most ardent Trump supporters putting videos, memes, so on, et cetera, all over Twitter. And then you had John McLaughlin, I don't know how you pronounce his name. He conducted some type of poll and said that that Donald Trump could receive up to 20%. I'll go through the numbers in just a second, courtesy of Just the News. But I want to tell you, this is all BS. This is all BS. It's not going to happen. And I think it's really important that we understand that it's not going to happen. What I said earlier is that the Republican Party needs to stop chasing black votes. I don't believe in kissing anyone's behind, but we do need to go after black voters. And there's a difference. When I say votes, you don't show up during election season and try to get votes from people. You just love on people. You figure out people's needs. If you want to go into a community, I don't even think we should, as a Republican Party, I don't even necessarily believe that we need to go after black votes per se. If we show up in the communities, if there's programs in the communities, if we offer ideas and plans or something to leaders in the community to help people, that will build a relationship of trust over the long term. And I think that's what we need to do. I don't think we need to, every election cycle, man, we better, we got to do what Democrats do. We got to figure out how to divide people somehow or get these groups of people. No, our principles work for everybody. People work hard. They earn their paychecks. They earn money management. Don't overspend. Don't pay the government too much. The government shouldn't be taxing us too much. That works for everybody. Free speech works for everybody. Second Amendment self-defense works for everybody. And we need to share those things because we love all people. We love all people and we want people to thrive. And that's got to be our mentality. That's got to be our attitude. This idea that, oh man, Trump is just going to get 20% of the vote. I'm really uncomfortable with people saying this. And I think it's delusional. I think it's delusional for Republicans to say such a thing when we've not seen that happen. I remember the last election cycle. Even I was questioning them myself for a while. There were so many so-called influencers out there and others just saying, man, Trump was going to get in 2020, Trump was going to get 20% of the black vote, 25, 30%. And I'm like, what am I missing? And is there something that I'm not seeing? Is there something that I'm not hearing? I mean, I got family that are Democrats. I have a brother that lives, in honestly, some of the harshest parts of this area in Florida that we're at because of his situation. And I'll take him back and forth sometimes and, home. And I'm not seeing this. I'm just being straight with you. I'm not seeing this. You saw blacks on a route. You see blacks online. And then there's this assumption that these numbers are so huge that they're going to show up for Trump by 20 points. I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste resources leading up to 2020. Oh, Carl, that sounds so bad. Man, I don't care how it sounds. I'm being truthful with you. I do believe there are some people that we can win over immediately. There's some people that are already transformed. You see what happened with the Latino vote in 2020. You see what happened with the Latino vote even in 2016. But even the Latino vote wasn't as high as Republicans had gotten under people like George W. Bush. Yes, believe it or not. I'll go into some of the numbers. So I do hope that we can recapture those Latino votes and we'll do it by sharing our ideas, sharing our policies, sharing our values, and telling people our values they work for everybody. We love everybody. Otherwise, we wouldn't be espousing these values. We don't want people to sit in welfare lines. We want people to be able to use their talents to get a job. We don't, or we want free speech because we want people to be able to agree to disagree and have different ideas, have people that are innovative and people that have different gifts that God has given them, be able to speak, be able to create, be able to be innovative. You want those people. You want people to be able to speak out, to be able to share their views, to be able to share their thoughts, to be able to think critically and think out loud. You want people to be able to do that. That is one of the benefits that we have of living in this country, or at least we had of living in this country. And that's so important. But let me just give you some numbers to help prove my point here. All right. So first off, here are some of the polls that the McLaughlin Group, why they believe that Trump could get as high as 21% support from blacks. I'm just telling you, I don't think these guys are. I hear these guys come on programs like Hannity. I think they're good guys. I just think they're dead wrong, and I think this is dangerous because there's this assumption out there that we don't have to work for our elections to win in elections. That somehow by just putting Trump forward or this figure, all of a sudden the votes are just going to come out of nowhere. Well, what about all the things that Trump did for blacks? Well, some of the policies that he implemented, there were actually times in modern American history where blacks didn't do so bad, even before Trump, believe it or not. Even though we had the lowest unemployment rates in the black community for quite some time, there's no doubt about it. But we also had businesses that skyrocketed, black business under George W. Bush and stuff like that. And I'm not even a fan of Bush, but I'm just telling you the numbers because it's just not true. And I just wonder how much time and energy we're going to sit here believing this nonsense. What we need to do is make sure that we recapture everyone in 2024, Lord willing, that Trump got in 2020, whether he's the nominee or someone else, at least that, and then hopefully grow from there. But here's what the polling data reveals, according to McLaughlin. Polling data over the past month appears to show substantial movement, again, courtesy of Just the News, away from Biden and toward Trump in terms of their 2024 voting intentions. Notice those words, voting intentions. Even the day before Trump's booking in Georgia, a McLaughlin and Associates August monthly survey showed that the former president defeating Biden in a general election rematch by 47% or a rematch 47 to 43%. That survey further showed Trump claimed 21% support among black voters to Biden's 68% with 11% undecided. I have no idea how they come up with these numbers. They polled 1,000 people, and I don't know how they extrapolate this. The poll of 1,000 likely voters did not disclose a margin of error. Really? You notice the loose language that even conservatives are playing with? You notice that? I think this is dangerous. I think this is silly. Still, those figures represent an upward trend from the same survey's July iteration. The early survey saw Trump edge out Biden 46 to 44, though the incumbent commander-in-chief took 80% of the black vote to Trump's 9%, with 11% undecided. Collectively, the polls show a 24% swing of black voters from Biden to Trump during the 1 month interval. Yes, we're seeing, this is a quote from McLaughlin, the pollster, John McLaughlin. Yes, we're seeing that where Donald Trump in his first race, he got 8%, and the African-American vote, then he got 12% in 2020. It's going to be even higher now, where it could approach 20%. He said, I've seen it where candidates like Governor Nathan Deal in Georgia, who reformed the justice system and helped improve charter schools, he was getting double-digit African-American support. McLaughlin said. And then you have George Allen and Jim Gilmore, he said, when they ran in Virginia. He said, we got 20% of the black vote, quote unquote. So he says, this is McLaughlin, again, the pollster, quote, so it's possible to do much better. And Trump's getting it now because particularly among African Americans who are more independent among men and some core Democrats, they're breaking off because they're sympathizing with him. Here's this tough leader who basically is taking everything they're throwing at them, and they see it, that it's political, close quote. And their fortunes under Joe Biden are not improving. They're getting worse. He goes on to say, so I saw a recent stat where real wealth and wages among African-American voters improved under President Trump, and now it's worse under Joe Biden. So right now, I think voters across America, particularly working class voters, are coming to President Trump, close quote. And I do believe that working class voters are coming to the Republican Party. Honestly, we've seen that in the state of Florida, where so many people have moved from out of state to the state of Florida because of Governor DeSantis's leadership. So I do believe that that can happen. The question is this real when it comes to blacks? George Allen and Jim Gilmore, if I'm not mistaken, that was pre-Obama or early Obama. The United States has completely changed. I'm sorry. And a lot of people, this is the mistake I think that a lot of conservatives are making. I don't want you to, we have to play the long game. Let me put it that way. Polls like this prevent us from playing the long game. And again, the goal isn't to get black votes. The goal is to persuade black voters, because we think of them as people in that sense. How can our policies make their lives better? We should always be explaining the whys. We should always be thinking of the long-term game. I think we have a generational game. I don't think there is a short-term Trump shows up and he gets 20%. Now, I hope that I'm wrong, but I'm 99.99% sure that I'm not. So this idea that we're going to get 20% and that it's rather insulting too when you sit there and think about it. Oh, well, a lot of blacks feel down with Trump now that he's arrested, so we're going to get 20%. Just stop. Just stop. Just stop and think about that for a second. Think about what you're saying, how condescending that sounds. Since Trump is arrested, blacks know what it's like to be arrested or harassed, so we're going to get 20%. For God's sakes, please stop that. Please don't do that. It astounds me because we're living in a time where I feel like there's so many conservatives that claim to know, quote unquote, what time it is, that don't know what time it is. We have lost our institutions. We've given up on them. The left has been waging a war on us since the progressive era. And we're really just getting to a point where we're saying the conservative movement, that is, well, we didn't conserve anything, but the Republican constitutional restorationist movement is saying, whoa, enough is enough. Enough is enough. I do believe that when people suffer and when they've had enough, then you know what? They're not going to vote for Democrats anymore. But I don't think that I don't think it's been enough yet. See, because a lot of blacks are not voting for the Republican Party, not based upon merit, not based upon money. When I say merit, not policies. I'm not even sure if they're able to connect the dots between Republican policies, frankly, and better living. But they are able to connect the dots with Democrats. When Democrats are around, so many in the black community get welfare. When Democrats are around, they've got a champion that'll stick up for them for moral reasons, because they believe Republicans are racist and xenophobes and all this kind of stuff. It becomes a moral argument. So they're willing to sacrifice the money, the merit, and all that kind of stuff over moral arguments. And Republicans, we don't share why our fights are moral, why our fights are good. We don't share the whys, in other words. Why are our policies better for everyone in every community, in every city, in every state? We have to do more of that. And to assume that we're just going to get 20%, Trump shows up, we get 20%, when he got 12. He had the First Step Act, the best, the lowest unemployment rate amongst blacks, and I think it was like 40 years, something like that. The opportunity zones, and he got 12%. Well, and 12% isn't horrible. It's not horrible, but it's not great either. After all of that work. McLaughlin surveys do not seem to be outliers. A Fox News poll conducted in mid-August suggested that Trump and Biden face off in 2024. The former president will win 20% of the black vote compared to 61% who would back Biden. While the demographic remains overwhelmingly Democrat, such figures would suggest that the voter bloc has shifted significantly from its 2020 leanings. In the general election, 87% of black voters backed Biden compared to 12% who broke for Trump. Collectively, those figures represent a 34% shift away from Biden since November 2020. Conducted between August 11th and 14th, August 11th through 14th, the survey questioned 1,002 registered voters. Notably, it posted 9.5% margin of error for black respondents, leaving a 9.5% margin of error. These polls are jokes. They are jokes. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich opined that Trump's myriad indictments have served to highlight the alleged corruption of the Democrat-led government and may steer black voters towards the ex-commander-in-chief. Thanks, Newt. The reason is simple. They feel that the police have harassed them. They're now watching the government harass Trump. They actually identify with what he's going through. I think many people who may or may not like Trump's personality, but they look at this and they think, here are my choices. I'm going to side with the totally corrupt administration, or I'm going to side with the guy who has the guts to stand there and take the beating and keep coming. Only the blacks that have already made that choice are going to do that. The other blacks that you'll have to get based upon policy. And I'm not sure that we're even explaining policy. I'm not sure that too many voters know what the Republican Party stands for today. I mean, I can go on. This is such these polls are laughable to me. I don't believe it. I just want you to slow your roll. I don't want you to buy into the hype. Don't believe all the polls. Trump is not going to get 20% of the black vote. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that because we need a wake-up call and we don't have time to play around leading into 2024. We cannot just assume that 20% of blacks. No, this is a long-term game and we better get our feet on the ground. There are some people that have their feet on the ground. If there's people that are working within black communities to try to persuade blacks on our policies and why they're more effective and helpful for everyone, and then support those people. Support those people financially, volunteering in whatever way you can. But no, this 20%. Let me share with you the history of black support. And you guys know, many of you listening to this podcast, you probably know this history, but prior to 1936, a majority of black voters supported Republicans. Why? Because the party's historic role in the abolition of slavery, or the abolition of slaves, and ending slavery. But then you had the Great Depression, you had the New Deal run around and come around. You had Franklin Delano Roosevelt say at the time, these N-words will vote for us for, basically God knows how long. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said, essentially. And he did use the N-word, as a matter of fact, because of all of the government goodies that he was going to give out now as a result of the Great Depression hitting and then the New Deal. So that led to a majority of African Americans, sadly, switching their allegiance from the Republican Party to the Democrat Party at that time. However, between 1936 and 1960, we were able to maintain approximately 30% of the black vote. That changed after 1964 when Republicans nominated Barry Goldwater. And listen, on policy, Barry Goldwater was correct. He was talking about states' rights and stuff like that. A lot of blacks at that time considered states' rights, oh, that was racist. A lot of blacks still believe that. But what Barry Goldwater, who was not a racist, and the left will have you believe that he was arguing for the Constitution. If we get this thing right, even in this era, we should go to this particular model. Well, that didn't sit well. And a result of that, and Barry Goldwater opposing the 1964 Civil Rights Act, we saw the black vote in 1964 slip to only 6%. Only 6%. And honestly, we've struggled with it ever since. All right, since 64, Republicans again have struggled. So in 2020, Trump got 20% of the black vote. He improved. That's a good sign, right? Because again, what did he have? The Opportunity Zones, First Step Act, best economy for blacks in 40 years, or anyone, quite frankly, in 40 years. So I'm sorry, I'm making notes as I remember stuff myself. All right, so yeah, he went to from 8% in 2016 to 12% in 2020. Now, I want to remind you that this isn't bad, but there are several nominees that equal or exceeded Trump's 2020 numbers. Nixon got 15% of the black vote in 1968, despite it dropping to 6% in 64. He got 13% in 1972. Ford got 17% in 1976. Reagan got 14% in 1980. Dole matched Trump by getting 12%, or Trump's best numbers by getting 12% in 1996. And I say this, why? Because there were no opportunity zones. There wasn't a 40-year low unemployment rate at that point in time. There wasn't a First Step Act, and Trump got 12%. So for people to say that Trump is going to jump from 12% to 20%, they're just, I don't want to say they're lying to you. Maybe they're overly hopeful. And maybe the impression that social media gives us that there's a million blacks sitting on the side of the road saying free Trump, it's just not true. It's just not true. And I don't want us to grow lazy. We're going to have to work to win every single vote in 2024. And I'm afraid that this idea that all of a sudden people have been so beat up. Look at 2022. Yes, we did have more people show up. Unfortunately, not in the right areas where we needed to win more races in 2022. But look at look at New York City. Look at California. These people are still hiring these people that are destroying their towns. Democrats. Let me give you some more numbers. When it comes to Asians and Hispanics, let's look at those. Ronald Reagan got 37% in 1980 and 34% in 1984. We're talking about Hispanics and Asians right now. George W. Bush got 35%. And I don't know why they're including them together in these numbers, but they are. In this particular, this is from Forbes. George W. Bush got 35% in 2000, 44% in 2004. Trump got the Latino vote in 2016 and 2020, 29% and 31%. So I'm showing you that Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush got higher numbers than Trump, even amongst Latino voters. And we were excited to see Latinos turning around towards Trump. We have to put this stuff in perspective. And I don't know if it's just a lack of research, wishful thinking, narrative shaping on the right, but we got to stop this nonsense. Because if we believe, oh man, 20% of black vote, we're not going to be motivated to go out and make that 20% happen one day. And that's going to be over time. That's going to be gradual. That's going to be, we're not just coming after you for your vote. That we're coming for you because our ideas are better. We love people. We think our ideas can help you. We think our ideas can help your family. We love people. That's how we love on people. Our policies are loving. Our policies are compassionate. So all of these people that I've mentioned have outperformed Trump. And I'm not saying that because I hate Trump. I'm saying that because you need to hear the truth so you know how hard you need to work. And there's people out there that I think there's such a grift right now for Trump. And I think it's messing us up. I think it's throwing us off. There's a bunch of fake people that are able to make money off of Trump's name that are on the right, and I think they're doing it. I'm not saying that's the case with the pollsters per se. I don't know, because they seem like great guys. I mean, this guy, I listen to him when he comes on Sean Hannity. I love him. That polling is flawed. I mean, I'm not even a pollster, and I'm looking at 9.5%, give or take, basically, on these posts. Are you kidding me? Are these the methods that we're using now? Margin of error, 9.5%. Is that, are those the methods that we're using now? We're polling 1,000 likely voters, not 1,000 registered voters, and coming up with 21% are going to vote for Trump. Is that what we're doing now? I'm sorry. This stuff is a joke. And I think it's hurting Trump, frankly. And I think it's hurting the conservative movement. When it comes to the Asian vote specifically, Trump's performance with Asians in 2020 stood at 32%. I actually thought that was pretty good. But that's only ahead of his own showing in 2016. That was 29%. The only other person that was worse than him in modern history was Mitt Romney, that only got 26% of the Asian vote. George H.W. Bush won 55% and 55% of the vote versus 31%. Bob Dole won 48% of the Asian vote. And again, they're a small portion of the vote. I get it. But still, these numbers are pretty jarring. The Bush-Dole margins might have been higher had Ross Perot not ran as independent in 1992 and 96. The best overall GOP minority performance after 1960 is not by Trump. Ironically, it's by George W. Bush, where he secured 28% of the minority vote. And I believe that included, I don't see this breakdown, I don't know why, I think that included 14% of the black vote, again, besting Trump. Beware of the grifters. Beware of the gaslighters that are even on the right, because they do exist. And maybe I'm being too harsh with some of these people. But I just want to win. And if we're getting misinformation, if we think we have it in the bag with black voters, how many of you that might be incentivized or motivated to go out, work in the black community and say, man, this is what we're about. This is why our policies are helpful to not just this community, but every community. Instead of, oh, we got this in the bag, man. We got 20%. Democrats better be running scared. I don't think it's going to be that easy. I hope it will be. I hope it'll be a landslide for Republicans in 2024. But I look at 2020 and I look at 2022, where in 2022, the Democrats did targeted ballot harvesting. They made an issue up, got people mad, or focused on an issue such as abortion, got people mad, went out there with ballot harvesters and took home the bacon. Just be aware of this stuff, guys. We're not getting 20% of the black vote. Not yet. Not yet. I believe we'll get there. But it's not going to be one election cycle. If you're going to fight for America, it has to be on an election cycle. The progressive left, commies, have fought to take over this country for nearly 100 years or over 100 years. This isn't a fight that's going to be won in one election. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and pretend like it is going to be. And we're going to just jump in numbers all of a sudden just because Trump shows up. No. Trump is going to have to fight if he's the nominee, and you're going to have to fight to bring in more voters for him. You know, and maybe it's another nominee. I don't know. But unless the primary becomes a one-on-one between he and a DeSantis, then it is more than likely that Trump will just be the nominee, because the only way that someone's going to be able to beat him is if there's a one-on-one. And that doesn't appear to be happening. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast, your daily dose of objective truth. Again, in a world of confusion and lies, please subscribe wherever you go to get your podcast. And until next time, Don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.